do this, Ben. All right, so for everyone on the call, this is your next installment of Toolbox Tuesdays. This is Grant and Ben over at ERP Connect. Today, what we're going to be talking about is our Advanced Prepayments Extension. So we're going to run you through a quick agenda, and all of y'all that have been on our calls before, you know how it goes. We're going to dive right into the content. So what we're going to run through today for Advanced Prepayments is the setup. We are going to run through customer prepayments, so think retainers and deposits. We're going to go through our sales order prepayments after that, so some added flexibility on out-of-the-box prepayments in Business Central. And then we're going to top it off with additional functionality. For those of y'all that have not been on this presentation yet, please feel free to hop into the chat box if you have any questions. We love making this an open dialogue, but without further ado, let's hop over to the live demo with Ben.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant. And I'm going to pop over Business Central here. Can you confirm that you can see that? Just want to make sure we're all good to go.
Confirmed.
Awesome. So like Grant said, we're going to get started with advanced prepayments here. The first thing I like to show always is the setup, just because we do try to make it as easy as possible. So I'll show you what we need to do here. But kind of jumping in, obviously the first thing you'll need to do, generate your demo key so you can get that free 30 days in your instance. Then you'll just want to make sure that you can activate that prepayments management right here. That's basically going to be a global toggle, turn everything on or turn everything off. And then from there, you just need to pick your sales prepayment and your purchase prepayment account. So think of, what it's going to hit on the balance sheet side of things before it actually hits your revenue or your expense. So prepaid expenses and deferred revenue accounts typically here. We're going to be 100% focusing on the sales side today. So everything you see when we post these prepayments will all get hit against account 20300. I do want to note that everything we're doing on the sales side is also able to be replicated on the purchasing side. So the customer prepayments also work on the vendor side, and then the sales order and sales invoice prepayments that we're going to do also work on the purchasing side. But again, just for time's sake, we're going to go through the sales order piece, and then if you want, you can replicate it on the purchasing side in your demo. On the sales, we're going to have a few different toggles. So one is allow over prepay. So let's say your sales order was $0 because we haven't added any lines yet, or it's $1,000, but you want to prepay $2,000 because you know that sales order is going to grow. That's not something that's available in Business Central out of box. That's something that we allow for. Additionally, on those sales orders, when generating the prepayments, we have the ability to add all of the order lines that are on that original sales order to the prepayment as comments to say, hey, this is $10,000 and these are the items that we have on the sales order right now. Or you could just do a summary line, which is just going to show the payment. Additionally, you can put some custom text in there for the summary line if you want. We're going to use the order lines today. You have some options around how those invoice numbers for the prepayments are sequenced. You can toggle the check for prepaid on or off. What that's going to do is, let's say you have a prepayment for $1,000. It's not going to let you process anything, kind of like out of box Business Central, until that prepayment has been paid. So just an on or off there. Then the last thing, which is one of my favorite parts here, is the generate prepayment balance line. So let's say you're using a customer deposit or a customer retainer. They pay you $10,000 and you use $1,000 on that first invoice. It will generate a comment line that says, hey, you've got $9,000 left, right? So kind of just a running total as we get into that. And I know the customer and vendor side of things are probably foreign because Business Central doesn't do any of those out of box, but hopefully the concepts make sense and we'll jump right into those. So if there's any questions, like Grant said, please ask them as we go along. He will help facilitate those and interrupt me as needed, but this is for everybody on the phone today, so I'd highly encourage questions as we go. So that's it for the setup. Again, we can replicate it on purchase orders, and we also have the ability to do prepayments on jobs as well. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into our first topic, which is our customer prepayments. So again, think of this as a deposit that the customer's making. We don't know what the money is really for yet. They just say, hey, we want to pay you $10,000. And then you're going to start chipping away at that money as the sales orders come in. On the sales order, I'll also show you have the option to prepay partially or exclude the prepayment from using it on the sales order as well. So to get started, we need to get some money from the customer, right? So you'd go to the customer card, you'd come to process, you'd come to advanced prepayments. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you a history. So I've obviously demoed this quite a bit. So I can see all the prepayment invoices that I've ever made for this customer, what the amounts are, what the dates are, and then what the remaining amount is. So for this, I've already paid them all, or my customers paid me, I should say. And then down here, you can see all the times that the prepayment funds were used on sales invoices, and you can drill into that, and then you can see my deferred revenue account here as well, and how much money was used from that. So again, the first thing I'm going to need to do is come out here and just say, okay, the customer's prepaying me $1,000, right? Today's date, maybe it's due. Maybe we're just going to give them a couple days to pay because we know it's coming in. And from here, all you have to do is click post prepayment invoice. Now, what this is going to do, you can see here, it updates my prepayment invoiced amount remaining of $1,000. I just invoiced them $1,000. If I come down here, up here, actually, I have it filtered. Up here, we've got that $1,000 that hasn't been paid yet. I can jump into this prepayment sales invoice. And coming down here, it's going to book it to my deferred revenue account, and it's just going to say customer prepayment on account for $1,000, right? I had that toggle turned on to say that I can't process anything until these prepayments have been paid. So nothing fancy here. I'm just going to do a cash receipt, and let's simulate the customer actually giving us some money. Just run through this quick again, just all out of box stuff right here. Right, and that $1,000, we'll click OK, and I'll go ahead and post that. All right, so we're good there. Let's jump back to the customer, and what we can see now is that invoice here at the top that we just did, the remaining amount is now 0, but we still have $1,000 left on account. It's basically saying, hey, you've got $1,000 here. This is money that you can use for their future sales orders or sales invoices that come through. And we'll show you here in a second how that looks from a GL perspective and from a sales order perspective. So that's as easy as it is in order to get that kind of up and running at the customer level. What I'll also show you is this export customer summary to Excel. This can be very useful, especially when I've got a ton of different prepayments and applications and things like that in the system. I'm going to pop open this Excel and drag it over real quick. Just got to pop up for me. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a summary of all the prepayment invoices, the credit memos, and all of the invoices that have been booked to this customer. And you can see whether it's a prepayment invoice, a credit memo, or a payment application, the document number, the date, the amount, the remaining amount, and then the running balance of that. So again, just if you wanted to quickly see all the prepayment activity, you can easily export that to Excel, customer by customer. So now we've got $1,000 on account for this customer, and I'm going to close this and come out to a sales order. So let's create a new one real quick. And again, customer's got $1,000. All of what I just showed you is non-existent in Business Central today. Everything you have to do through sales orders and sales invoices, and we know how rigid that can be. So trying to give some added flexibility to working with prepayments at a customer and sales order level, as we'll show right now. So again, I'm just going to make a sales order real quick. I'm going to sell an item right here, getting some pop-up notes from another tool that we've got, and I'm going to sell them one. And what I'm actually going to do to get started here is let's give them a discount and only sell this for $600. So we have 1,000. They're only being charged $600 for this one. And when I actually go ahead and post this, show you real quick the result. We can come back into our customer and click on customer 100 again. And if I go back into their advanced prepayments, we just used $600, remember? Now I've got $400 left on account, right? Because they paid us 1,000, we used 600 on that sales invoice. And if I come down to the prepayment applications, it's this invoice right here. So $600 was used to apply to that invoice. I can drill into this invoice. I can also do this through the customer ledger entries or the posted sales invoices, wherever you need to go. But this is going to be the resulting entries on the line. So, right, we sold them item 1017 for $600, and then it's going to bring in an offset line for us saying, hey, we used your sales prepayment credit for -600 essentially. So the total amount on this invoice they don't owe us anything because we used prepayment funds. Now, if I had that prepayment line toggle turned on, we'd see another comment line here that says, hey, you've got $400 left as well. So just to indicate kind of how that flows through there, that's really the end-to-end process on this first piece. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to create an additional sales order. So we got $400 left, right? And I'm going to come back out here and go to sales order. And create a new one real quick. And again, this is all money that's still at the customer level. We'll show it specific to the sales order in a second here. But let me just create another one. Pop-up notes from A&T. Those are looking good. All right, so now we're not going to give them a discount on this one. We're just going to charge them the full, I think it was $1,300. All righty. $1,300. All right, this is perfect. So again, we've got another sales order for $1,300 now, and we've got $400 left that they can use. What I was talking about earlier is we have the ability to exempt this from prepayment completely. So let's say that we just want to charge them $1,300. We want to put it all on account, and we don't want that $400 to be used. You can just click this on, and it will ignore that there's a prepayment, and it will just put it on AR, put it on terms, and not use the $400. Additionally, if for some reason you only wanted to use 300 out of the 400 to make it an even 1,000, you could put 300 in here, prepayment amount to apply, and it would take just a portion of that money and apply it to this invoice. We're going to keep going through this use case because I want to use all the money to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to print there. I'm going to post this.
Hey, Ben, while you're doing that post, we got a question coming in and potentially another question as well.
Perfect. Go for it.
All right, let's do it. So first question, can you apply multiple prepayments to one order?
Yes. So if you're doing it at a customer level, essentially what it's doing is kind of tallying all that money up. So let's say you had a prepayment for 1,000, you did another 1,000, it would show that you have 2,000. So Business Central doesn't actually care that 1,500, some of it's coming from this invoice, some of it's coming from that invoice. It's just booking that as a total kind of retainer or deposit to you, and then you can use it as you see fit. And that's why we added those toggles. So if you want to, if it's a $1,500 invoice, it would by default take all 1,500 out of that bucket that you have and show now that you have 500 left. It doesn't necessarily say, okay, we're taking 500 from here and 1,000 for here. At a customer level, at a sales order level, which I'm going to show next, that's where the sales prepayment invoices are tied directly to the sales order. And we'll show that here in a second. So that'll be another use case. But at the customer level, we're pretty much just, they keep paying us. We keep racking up their bucket. And as we book sales invoices, we're just taking money out of that bucket and saying, hey, here's $1,500 allocated, right? So great question. Any others there, Grant?
Yes. So next question for you, Ben. Can you allocate a specific prepayment to a specific order?
On the sales order side, yes. On the customer side, again, we're just booking prepayments and then using that money as kind of a pool of funds. So it doesn't say, hey, this was the specific prepayment invoice and this is the sales order it's going to. That we would want to focus on our next topic, which is going to be doing exactly that, is allocating the prepayment to the specific order. So
perfect.
We'll round that out in a second here. That's great. Great question. And now you can see, just to round this customer side out, the prepayment amount now is 0. We've used all of the funds. And if I come down here to the invoices, I believe it's this one. We've used $400 here. And now you'll notice that, again, the total is $1,300. We used the rest of it that we had. We used that $400. So the resulting amount is they've exhausted their prepayment and now they still owe us $900, right? So that kind of hits 0, and then it says, okay, now that they're out of prepayment, put the rest of that money on terms. So they would get this invoice and they would still owe $900. So that's kind of the end to end, but I like to show both of those scenarios there. So to jump in, and those questions were great kind of preface to what we're going to do next, is let's do the same thing, but at a sales order level. Now, one of the biggest kind of questions I always got from clients, or things that I would hear when implementing Business Central, would be, hey, these prepayments, I can't really do anything once the prepayment kind of gets like locked down, right? Let me jump back into my demo. It hopped me over to production for some reason, but that's essentially what we're solving, right? So we're going to come in here and go into a sales order. And I'm just going to create a new one for that same customer. We know they have no money on account. So this is a good use case, kind of starting fresh. And I'm just going to pick them there. And I'm going to do that same item, 1017. Pop-up notes galore, it looks like today. And we're just going to do one. So just like you would do in out-of-box Business Central, the next step is to create that prepayment invoice. Now, we've tried to make this process a little bit easier, right? So similar to on the customer side, you're going to come to Process, go to Advanced Prepayments, and now you see a window that kind of looks very similar, right? So the first option you have is either to define a percentage or an amount. So if I say, okay, I just want 50% of this total, my line was 1,300, so it's automatically booking $650 for this prepayment amount. And again, like before, I can just post the prepayment invoice. It's going to put $650, and I've got a remaining amount of $600 on this prepayment invoice. Again, if I look at this prepayment invoice, the one thing you'll notice that's different is this comment line. So on the setup, I said, when I generate a prepayment invoice, put in comment lines that are the items that are on the sales order, right? So now it's just saying, okay, I've got that Microsoft Surface 8. That's a comment line saying this is part of the prepayment invoice we're about to do. And you can see that we have $650 there that we're saying, hey, this is what you need to pay in order to get that prepayment going. So again, nothing fancy here, just going to do a cash receipt. And let's go here. Let's run through this quickly. I just need to pay it because I do have that requirement turned on. So we'll just try to fly through that. $650, we'll pay that. Or they're paying us, I guess. Click yes. All right, boom, cash receipt. Again, nothing fancy there, just getting it done. Now that prepayment invoice has a remaining amount of 0, but we still have $650 that we can apply to this sales order. So again, let's get out of here. Let's come back into the sales order. You'll notice that now that the prepayment has been paid, the status changed to released. I didn't show it a second ago, but before we did that, it said pending prepayment. Again, just kind of normal workflow type stuff out of Business Central. Here's the cool thing. In out-of-box Business Central, there's really nothing I can do at this point other than post the invoice. I can't update any of the lines. I really can't get any flexibility when it comes to these prepayments, right? That's one of the major improvements and one of the major things that we've done for all of our clients that are using advanced prepayments. I can simply come up here. I can reopen this. I can add more prepayments to this if I wanted. Now I could add a second prepayment. Maybe they want to pay me another 50% or 25% or something before this ships. Or really cool thing, what I can do here is I can just update this line. Maybe we want to change it to 1,400, right? Now I can release it again, or I could really just post it from here. And what this is going to do, it let us update that line as we just saw. I could add more prepayments if I wanted to. And now all I have to do is click post. And do you want to see the posted invoice? Yes, I absolutely do. So look at what this did. We've got that Microsoft Surface 8 for $1,400. That $650 that they prepaid us, right, has now been used to apply against this posted sales invoice for $650 that we can see right there. And then again, it's just showing us the GL account that it's taking that money out of. So in this case, the whole purpose is, right, we did this all within 30 minutes, but in a real world scenario, we would be booking maybe $10,000 to a prepayment, and we really can't put that anywhere other than the balance sheet, right? So we need to book it to 20300. And then as that money starts to come in as the revenue comes in, I should say, from the sales invoices, it's then taking it out of that 20300 account and putting it into revenue. So it makes that whole GL flow really easy, makes it really easy to book to deferred revenue and then take out and book to actual recognized revenue on your income statement when the time is right. And it's doing all of that for you automatically. We also notice here that since we upped that to 1,400, it is no longer 50%, but that's okay. It's just going to take the 650 out and leave us with our remaining balance. Again, if you needed to add additional prepayments before that was booked, we have full flexibility to do whatever you want. Move the amount up, move the amount down, add more prepayments. Maybe they paid us a prepayment of $650, and before they paid it, they said, actually, we only want to pay $500. You can make a prepayment credit memo for $150. That would bring that total down. So again, just a ton of flexibility. If any of your clients or you internally are using prepayments or have a need for prepayments, we find this to be kind of a huge step up from what the out-of-box offers. We had a few clients recently, one actually last week, that was just talking to us about how much time this is going to save them. They're still in the testing phase, but they went through their process of how many things change and how they're having to update things, and just the amount of time savings that they're getting from this is well worth the investment, right? So with that, Grant, I have a few extra minutes for questions, but really that's kind of the flow, right? We went through the customer side, which again, you can replicate on the vendor side. We went through the sales order side, which again, you can replicate on the purchase order side. And then if you're using jobs, we also have the ability to tie prepayments directly to jobs, which none of that exists. There's no ability to do that in Business Central today. So some really cool features that will hopefully unlock some additional time savings on your end and really kind of improve that user experience on a day-to-day basis.
100% on that, Ben. So it looks like we do have a few people typing in the chat box right now. Cool. But first thing I'm going to do while we dive back into our presentation is I'm going to actually post the link to our 30-day free trial on AppSource for advanced prepayments, as well as our next Toolbox Tuesday, which will be on our advanced notifications extension. So for everyone on the call, if you have a client that's interested, or you are a BC user that wants to try out advanced prepayments, we have a 30-day free trial on all our extensions. If you are interested in getting the extension, it is $900 a year. That is price per tenant, which means you can have unlimited users and unlimited companies. So kind of a lot of bang for buck in terms of automation and streamlining your process versus what you actually had to pay on a per year basis. Ben, if you can hop over to the next one for me as well. Advanced notifications, like we said, is our next Toolbox Tuesday, everyone. That's on September 12th at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So for those of you out there that haven't gotten or aren't aware, advanced notifications actually is available in both the North America localization as well as W1 now. So if you do have clients that are in the W1 localization, or you are a W1 user, we do have advanced notifications available now. All right, so Ben, it looks like we still might have someone typing in the chat box, but I think that's all I have on my end. If we just hop over to the last slide, if anyone has any questions for Ben and myself, you can easily connect with us by phone, by email, hopping over to our website and sending us over a form. All right, it looks like that question came in.
Awesome. I'll take a look at it from P. So it says, I assume jobs works the same way. Prepayments put to the customer and can be applied to any job for the customer. That is true. Is there anything if a prepayment is for a specific job? Yep. So that's what I was mentioning kind of on the sales order and purchase order side. So it would work that way exactly. You would actually tie the prepayment to that specific job, and it would only be able to be used for the job you apply for, similar to what we looked at on the sales order. And again, going to work the same on the purchase order and the job. If you tie a prepayment to that sales order, those prepayment funds are only going to be used for that sales order. So if you use more, like we saw in our example, it's just going to book the difference to AR. If you use less, it will actually automatically create a credit memo for you for those unused funds that you can then either refund or manually allocate to a future invoice. It won't add it into the customer deposit because a lot of times people want that money back, or they want to kind of one-off use it on an invoice. So it will work the exact same way. So good question. Got a comment from John, just everybody saying thank you. Looks like the last couple comments. But again, if you have any future questions, please feel free to reach out to Grant and I. We're always here to provide information. We'll be posting this video as well. If any of your colleagues who couldn't make it today would like to review the content. And as always, kind of thanks for coming. And we hope that you join our next session on advanced notifications. Appreciate it, everybody.